In this video, we are going to talk about simplifications in algebraic expression. So we are trying to check what exactly can we do here, right? So the idea of simplification here is that, or simplify, is that if you have let's say 1 over 2 here, this is what the simple form. So if anybody you cannot do anything about this 1 over 2 again. Is that okay? But what will happen if you have 2 over 10 here, right? So this guy, we can still reduce it. Are you getting the point? We can still bring this guy down. The idea is that 2 can go here 1, and then 2 can go here 5. So in the simple form, that is what 1 over 5, right? So this is what the simple form. This is what we call simplify. So what will happen if you have question like this in your algebraic expression that says that 4 divided by x squared minus 4, everything minus 1 over x squared minus 3x plus 2. They say you should simplify. So how can you simplify this method here, right? So how can you simplify this expression here? Now here is the point here. So the key here is that you have to make sure that you break this guy down, and then you break this guy down. So we call them quadratic, right? So we call these two guys quadratic. So the quadratic, how it looks like is you have as squared plus bs and then plus c. Is that okay? Don't let this guy scare you. All that it means is that the a is the friend that is attached to the x squared, and then b is also attached to the x, and then c is alone. So if you look at how this guy is, you have a, which is 1 here, right? And then b is -3, and then c is positive 2 here. So in this case here, you can see that this is also a quadratic. The meaning of the quadratic is that this guy is carrying 2 on top here, right? So you have x squared here. That makes it a quadratic here. So the number that is attached to this guy can never be n. We have a full video on this thing on the channel, so make sure that you subscribe. Is that okay? Now we are going to use one method that is a factorization. That's what we are going to use to simplify this guy here. So how do you do that? So here, first of all, you can see that this guy here, the way of solving this guy, maybe this was a straightforward one. So let's use this guy to explain. Later on, we demonstrate this guy. Now here you can see that the way of solving this thing is that first thing method is that you should find the AC. So the AC, what I mean by that, so the A multiplied by C. So the A here is 1, and then multiplied by c, so the c here is 2, right? So which is equal to 2, right? So you find the factors of this guy, the answer that you had here. So the factors of 2, that will be 1 and then 2. But here the factors that you are going to find is it will be both positive and what? And negative. Is that okay? So what I mean by that, you are going to have -1 and then -2 and then 2. The idea is that if you want to pick any of these two factors, that if you multiply, you are going to get an answer which is the xc here, right? And the same factors that you pick, if you add that, that should give you the b. So our b here is -3. That is the one that is attached to the x. So you have 2 and 1, -3. So out of these 4 guys here, which one when you multiply, it will give us the +2, and then which one, the same factors that if you add, we are going to have the b, which is -3, right? So you should guess that. So that should give me -1 and then -2, right? Is that correct? So this guy, -1 multiplied by -2, that should give me 2 here, which is the AC. What about -1 plus -2 here? That should be -3. Is that okay? So those are the 2 guys that we have. So if you have this guy here, we just need to use these 2 guys to replace the middle one. Is that okay? So once you replace the middle one, we have a full video on factorization. So make sure that you check that. Those are our previous videos. So check the playlist, and then if you have any question, then comment down below. So this is just a brief one. Okay, once you get the factors, you use that to replace the middle one, then you group, then you factor everything up. So this guy down here will give me x -1 here, right? And then here you also have x -2, right? So these are the 2 factors that we are going to get out of this guy. And then here to here we are going to have s plus 2 and then x -2, right? So those are the 2 factors that we are having. So we are breaking this guy. Why are we breaking them down, right? So they say we should simplify. We want to break it down into the simplest form. Okay, now how do you do that? So this is a fraction. So the rule of the fraction, or the law, says that if you are subtracting, right? If you are subtracting or adding a fraction, you should have the LCM, so the least common multiple. That is the word. Is that okay? So what is the least common multiple among the two denominators here? So the guys that are down here, what are the least common multiple among them? So of course, you have this guy, you have this guy. I can see these guys still here. So there's a different guy here. So the least common multiple will be what? These three guys here, right? So because this guy is here, this guy is here. So you are just going to pick one of them. So you repeat 1, 2, and then 3. So these three guys will be what? Our least common multiple here. Are you there? Okay, perfect. No, so if you get a least common multiple, what do you do? So in terms of a fraction, so let's say something of this nature. So here, let's say these are the two fractions that we are having. So let's say 1/5 here. So how do you solve this? So you find the LCM. So the LCM here will be straight be that should be, let me bring it here. So that should be what? That should be 10, right? So 10, this 2 will go into 10 how many times? 5, right? And then 5 multiplied by the top. Is that okay? Which is 1 here. And then minus what? 5 will go into this 10 how many times? 2. And then multiply by the top one, which is 1 here. Is that okay? So we are going to use this idea to solve this method here. So once we get a LCM here, so let's have our LCM down here. So this is the LCM. So this guy here will go into the LCM. So this guy and this guy will cancel this guy and that. Is that okay? And then the answer will be what? We are left with what? X minus 1 here. And then so 4 at the top here multiplied by what? X minus 1. Can you see that? So minus, there's a minus in between here. So we are having 1. Let's bring the 1, just 1 here. And then let's find what is cancelled out. So this guy and this guy will cancel this and then this one. So we are going to left with one. X plus 2, right? So these two guys will cancel the denominator. Can you see? So maybe these two guys will go into this LCM here, the denominator here. How many times? Just 1. So this and this will go away. We are left with this guy here. Are you there? Okay, now here you need to expand the bracket. So how are you going to expand the bracket here? So that will be giving you 4s minus 4 here on the first part, right? So this guy multiplied by that should give you 4s and then minus 4, and then here will be a negative s and then minus 2 here. This is exactly what I'm having. We are not doing anything to the down here. So what do you do here? You can group, right? So here you have to group these two guys here. So you have x here, you have x here. So this guy will give you what? 4s minus s. That should be what? 3x, right? So that should give you a 3s, and then negative 4 and then negative 2. This guy will give you a negative 4 and a negative 6. Are you there? Of course, we are not doing anything to the down, the LCM. Is that okay? So the top here, you can see that we can factor 3 out. So you can see 3 here, you can see 3 out of the 6. So let's bring the 3 out. So we are left with s minus 2 here, right? So the down here is still there. So you can see this guy here, which is what? The s minus 2. There's another x minus 2 at the down here, so they can cancel out. So our answer here will give you 3 over what? S plus 2 and then s minus 1. Is that okay? So this is how simple you solve this method. Make sure that you watch this video to the end, whereby you bring you some a little bit trick question under this method here. Now here's the next question. The next question here is saying that so we are still on simplification, right? So by this is the method. They say x squared plus s and then minus 6 divided by s squared minus 3s plus 2 here. Everything multiplied by x squared minus a divided by s squared minus 9. Okay, they say you should simplify. Now you have to master the idea of solving this quadratic expression here by what? A factorization. So if you don't know that, make sure that you check our video on that. That's just what I just explained at the beginning. That is all that you need here. Is that okay? This is all that you need here. So here we are going to use the factorization method to break this guy, break everything here. Are you there? Okay, now how do you do? After breaking this guy, you should have 2 factors. That should give you s minus 2 and then s plus 3 here. And then down here to the same thing, you are going to have s minus 2 and then s minus 1. So multiply by here, the top here, we brought the x out here, right? So we are going to left with s and then minus another x here. And then down here will give us the x plus 3 and then s minus 2. right? So everything will just cancel out, right? Everything will cancel out. Very, very simple. So this guy will cancel this guy here, and then this x minus 1 can also cancel it because they are multiplying, right? So these guys are they can cancel out. What about this? This will cancel this. So we are going to leave it this x here over what s minus 3. So that is awesome. So here is a very trick question here. So watch it out. This question says that m plus n, m plus 1 over what? M minus 1, everything subtracted by m minus 1 then over m plus 1. Then we also have 4 divided by m squared minus 1, right? So we are going to simplify these three steps here. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you do that? Always, this is a fraction of addition and subtraction. Is that okay? Of course, you need to find the LCM here. So, but remember, this guy is what, a quadratic, right? Maybe there's a difference of 2 squares. If you don't know, you are not familiar with that, then make sure that you just subscribe to the channel. We break everything down into pieces for you to understand better. Now, the way of solving this guy, you can still use the quadratic method to solve this guy. Here you have the a to be 1. A is the one that is attached to the squared here, the m squared. So the guy here is 1 here. The b here is equal, a is 1 and b is 0, right? So b is the friend of all the m. You don't have m here. And then our c is equal to 1. Is that okay? So these are the three guys that you just need to use the method of factorization to do that. Once again, you have a full video on that, so you may consider watching that. Okay, now if you just need to factor this guy. So if you factor this guy, you are going to have what, m minus 1 and then m plus 1, right? M minus 1 and then what, m plus 1 here. So what will be our ICM? The SCM here will be what? This guy is here, this guy is here, the same people that we are seeing here. Is that okay? So these two guys will be what, our LCM, right? Okay, now if you have the LCM, what do? I guess you should continue from this point. Okay, by the way, now this is what the LCM that we are having. So if you get an LCM, so we do the thing one by one, right? So this guy here will go into the LCM, so it will cancel, right? So this guy here will cancel the LCM here. Is that okay? Which is the m minus 1 and then m minus 1 here also cancel. So we are going to left with this m plus 1 here, and then 1 of the LCM, which is what, m plus 1, right? So that will be for the first part. Okay, what about the second part here? So the second part, that is your minus this LCM. The denominator is your m plus 1 here. So the m plus 1 will cancel this m plus 1, right? So the m plus, so we are going to left with m minus 1, which is this guy, multiplied by the one on top here. That is m plus m minus 1, right? So m minus 1. Make sure that you are putting everything into bracket. So finally here, you see that this guy here will cancel everything at the denominator here, right? So the LCM will cancel everything here. Okay, then we are going to be left with 4 at the top here. So plus 4 here. So what do? Let's expand the bracket. So these are two brackets that we are going to have. So m multiplied by m, that will be m squared here, and then this guy multiplied by that should give me m here, right? And then 1 multiplied by m, that should be m, and then this guy multiplied by that should be what, 1. Make sure that you maintain everything in the bracket as it is. This is just like a step by step. Don't be in a hurry. No one is chasing you. Is that okay? And then minus, let's deal with these two brackets here. So if you expand these two brackets, as I just did here, you are going to have the 1 in this bracket here, and then plus 4. Okay, now let's put the as at this point, because there's a negative sign here, right? So there's a negative sign. This negative here will multiply this bracket here. Are you there? If here was supposed to be negative 2, we would have used the 2 to multiply everything. So here there's a negative. It means that there's a negative 1 there, right? So negative 1 is going to multiply everything in the bracket. So the first part of the bracket, we don't have any issue, right? So the second part is where we are going to have the negative multiplying the bracket. But before then, let's add everything in the bracket, right? Let's add everything in the bracket before. So here we are going to have m squared here m here, m is here, so you are going to have 2m here plus 1, right? So m squared plus 2m plus 1. So in the second bracket, so the same thing, you have a negative m here and then negative m, so you are going to have negative 2m here, right? So m squared and then negative 2m plus 1 and then plus 4. Now you can take off the bracket. Are you there? You can take off the bracket. So this guy, you don't have any issue, so let's just take it off, and then here is where you are going to take the negative to multiply everything in this bracket. Are you there? Okay, now so you are going to have a negative m squared, and then this guy will tend to be a positive 2m, and then this guy will tend to be a negative 1 here, and then plus 4 outside, so plus 4 here, right? So here we can easily group, right? We can easily group. Before we group, we can see that this guy m squared minus m squared, so this and this will go away. Are you there? Okay, so we are going to have a 2m, and then there's another 2m here. That will give us a 4m down here, right? So that will give us 4m here. What about this one? There's 1 here and then minus 1 here, so this and this will also go away, right? So you are just left with 4 here, so you have a 4m plus 4, everything divided by m minus 1 and then m plus 1. Okay, here we can take out the 4 here, right? Because you can see 4 here, so let's bring the 4 out, and then we are going to left with m plus 1 here. So this guy will cancel this guy. Can you see? So the final answer to this guy is 4 divided by m minus 1, right? So we have another videos on what how to use algebraic identity. So that will be our next video. So algebraic identity. So how you can use this, some of these guys. Okay, so you may consider subscribing to the channel for more details.